Hey, good afternoon, fam. Good afternoon. Hope all is well with everybody. Hope all is well with everybody. Listen, today I want to have a conversation with you guys, right? As I'm going on my little nature walk, stretch my legs real quick before I come back in and finish up my dials. Take it every once in a while. You gotta take a break from sitting behind that desk and hitting the phones, right? You gotta stretch your legs, get the blood flowing, right? But I want to have a conversation today. And the conversation is in reference to Proverbs 13:22. Proverbs 13:22. And it talks about how a good man should leave an inheritance for his children's children's. Okay? A good man should leave an inheritance for his children's children. And why am I bringing this up? The other day I was in the field, right, with an agent. And the one thing about me is this. When I meet somebody who's ignorant, I get turned off real quickly. I immediately get turned off. And this gentleman was asking, why does he need life insurance? This is a gentleman that has children, right? And he was like, he's done what he supposed to do as a father, and they'll be okay, right? And this is what I want to talk about today, where a lot of people for some reason believe that once their children are grown, that their job is over. A lot of people believe that once their children are grown, that their job is over. Especially in our community. And if you're watching this, whether you're white American, whether you are Asian, whether you're Indian, whatever, please comment. Let me know if it's the same way in your community. Because obviously I'm African American and I do a lot of appointments within my community, even though I do have quite a few white Americans who are my clients, quite a few Hispanics who are my client, a handful of Asians who are my client, right? I do find that a lot of my community not only make that statement, but if they were to get a policy, they want to get the minimal amount. They have this saying that they don't want to make anybody rich, right? I don't want to make anybody rich. And if a person repeat that statement to themselves enough, they will understand how ignorant that statement sounds. You are a parent and you have a child or children, and you said that you don't want to make anybody rich. I'm trying to understand that thought process and that logic. Shouldn't your job be to give your children or even your spouse a better life? How you doing? Right? A better life. Especially your children. You should want your children to live a better life than you live. Okay? So I went to this appointment with this gentleman. Sorry about that, guys. I went to this appointment where this gentleman made that statement. And immediately I was gonna close my laptop, because I get real, especially when it comes to men. When it comes to men, because just me personally, you're a man, you're supposed to provide, whether you're alive or when you're no longer here. It is your job to provide and make sure that your family live on. So when I hear a man make that statement, I've heard women say it too. I really, that don't bother me as much, to be honest with you. But when I hear a man say it, I get real turned off. So I want to talk about this today and ask you guys a question. Why don't you have life insurance? And why do you believe that you don't need life insurance? And why do you believe that your children will be okay, even though they will be okay? We understand that. But the way you build your legacy, okay? The way you build your legacy, the way you keep your family going, is by you leaving inheritance. Okay? I hear a lot of people say, well, they can keep the house. The house is not an inheritance, if we want to be honest. Especially if that house is not paid off. It's actually a debt. That house is actually a debt. If you think about it, you're passing something on to them that is still owed to somebody, right? And if they cannot pay it, which happens, by the way, if they cannot pay it, that house is gone. So essentially, you have left nothing, right? Most people will not have a true inheritance to leave their children. Most people are not going to have businesses to transfer over to their children. Most people are not going to have stocks, investment portfolios to pass on to their children. So the next best thing is life insurance. The next best thing to leave your children is life insurance, because most people are not going to have any kind of inheritance. As a matter of fact, I think the number is only roughly about 7% of the people, I think that's the number, will receive some form of inheritance. Sorry about the glare in the background, guys. The sun is beaming right now. Only about 7% of the people will receive some form of inheritance. So, I want to take a moment to share that with you guys today, because as an agent in the field and as a father and also as a man, I don't know how a lot of people go to sleep at night, right, knowing that they don't have insurance coverage. I don't know how a lot of people go to sleep and sleep soundly at that, knowing they don't have any life insurance coverage. That has to be a scary thing. It has to be. And if you're listening to this, I want you to comment. I want you to comment. Let us know if you sleep very well, knowing that you don't have life insurance. I want to know, what are your thought process? What's the reason why you feel the way you feel, knowing that you don't have life insurance, but you have children out? As a matter of fact, even worse, you don't have any life insurance and you don't even care how they're going to pay for your funeral. You don't care how they will settle any debts that you have. I want you to comment and let us know your thought process behind that. I'm always willing to learn. I'm always willing to learn. And when that gentleman said that, I immediately tuned out. I knew I was wasting my time. He didn't buy anything, as I suspected. Okay? Even when we got to a premium that is the price of a coffee in a week. It's like, nah, brother, I don't need life insurance. They'll be okay. They have their mother. Oh, God. So, yeah. I know a lot of these people, I don't know what's in their head or what's in their thoughts. You know, a lot of these people, as a matter of fact, if you guys can comment for a second for me, let me know. If you close your eyes for me for a second and imagine some situation arose that landed you in the hospital and you don't know if you're gonna make it, and you know that you have no life insurance, you know you have children, because when you talk to most of these nurses or doctors, typically when somebody is in their deathbed, the fear of death is usually the second thing that they're afraid of. The first thing is, how are their children going to be okay? The first thing that they are afraid of is, how are their children going to be okay? That's the first thing. The fear of death is usually number two. The fear of dying is usually number two that scares them. Number one is, how are my children gonna be okay? I want you guys to think about this today as I close out. What's stopping you? Life insurance is so cheap, especially if you buy a term policy. But even a whole life or IUL, in most cases, especially if you're super healthy, but in most cases will be cheaper than most people pay for a cable bill or a series of apps on their TV. So if it's that inexpensive, then what is stopping you from making sure that your children can live on comfortably if you're no longer here? What is stopping you from leaving your grandchildren a parting gift? Okay? You know, especially in our community where we have this thing about trust fund babies, and we get mad with the trust fund babies. Well, the trust fund babies didn't just become trust fund babies. Somebody had to plan for those babies to become trust fund babies. Okay? Somebody had to plan for those children to become trust fund babies. So if you're watching this and you don't have life insurance and you're looking to get life insurance, but you don't know what to do, you don't know what kind you should get or who to trust, text me. Let's sit down and talk. 443-208-5480. That's 443-208-5480. I sat down with a couple probably about a month or so ago, and they were out there in Charles County, Maryland, and I did a term policy for a husband and wife. I believe the wife, the $1 million policy that I did for the wife for 30-year term was about $80-something a month. The $1 million policy that I did for the wife for 30 years, which is also a convertible term, by the way, which means that if the individual is getting closer to the end of that term and they feel as though that they might have substantial amount of life left in them, they can now convert that term over to a whole life without proof of insurability, right? But for now, they have $1 million policy that God forbid something happens to her, their children will be okay. The husband, with their $2 million policy for the husband, and that was around, I believe, $180 something a month, right? Which is cheaper. I drink coffee from Dunkin' Donuts almost every day. That's about $5. That's about $5 a day. So it's right around the same price I would pay for a cup of coffee every single day. It's definitely cheaper than most of these cable bills. It's definitely cheaper than having a lot of these apps that we have to watch these shows that we have, right? It's definitely cheaper than a night out at the bar. A night out at the bar is gonna cost you $100 plus. This premium is your monthly premium, and that's a $2 million policy, right? So my question to you is this: what is stopping you from making sure that your family can live on without you? That's one. Two, with these policies, there are something called living benefits inside of them, which allow you to access your death benefit while you're alive. In the event that some health condition happen, like cancer, heart attack, stroke, dementia, renal failure, things like that, you're able to access your death benefit for income. Right? Right? So again, the amount that you gotta spend at the lounges, at the bar, at happy hour, at brunches, life insurance probably costs a third of that. So why don't you have insurance is the question of the day. Huh? How much do you love your children? How much do you love your spouse? How much do you love the people who are dependent on you? And I'm not just saying this because I'm an agent. I've been an agent for 16 years. I actually had life insurance before I became an agent. Because to me, it's literally common sense. Like, you know, when you start to have children, it's literally common sense. Like, how can you have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old and not have any life insurance? You are responsible for that child until literally they're really out of college. Well, you're responsible for them forever. But can you imagine that it's taking your income to make sure that those children are going to be okay until they get into adulthood? And can you imagine if something happens to you before that time? That's the thought process that I want you guys to think about. What if something happens to you prematurely? How will your children be okay? Okay? You can't leave it up to the other party and just say, oh, something happens to me, the mother's going to be okay. And now you feel as though you can just go ahead and blow all your money and don't have to be some sort of responsible. Because you don't know what the other party might also be going through if something happens to you. Especially that other party is dependent on your income also. So I'm going to close out with that, guys. Again, if you don't have any life insurance and you want to sit down with me and go over some options, text me at 443-208-5480. That's 443-208-5480. Or you can also email me at evolve@titanevolutiongroup.com. That's evolve@titanevolutiongroup.com. I will leave all my information inside the description. And outside of that, hope you guys have a wonderful and blessed rest of your day. Talk to y'all soon.